And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. When we're born, a doctor usually says whether we're male or female based on what our bodies look like. But some people's gender identity, their innate knowledge of who they are, is different from what they initially expected when they were born. Most of these people describe themselves as transgender. On today's Open Connection, we open our archives to bring you this story from 1989.
I was a transsexual and I got AIDS in a prison October 86. The second day in prison, I was raped by 4 inmates after lunch. Sodomized, oralized, brutalized. I went into my unit cell, hid under the bed for about 8 to 9 hours before the guards noticed that there was something wrong. And then they put me in a segregated unit with rapists, murderers, and child molesters. And I just think that it was very inappropriate for a transsexual.
The men's unit at BC's Ocala prison is no place for a woman. Yet, for all intents and purposes, it was a woman they put in Ocala prison in October 1986. A woman who says she was raped, who says she got AIDS because of the rape, a woman who says she's now dying with the disease.
I don't believe I deserved a death sentence for a 30-day public mischief charge.
Is that what you ended up in Ocala for?
Yeah, for public mischief. Instead of giving 30 days, I was given a death sentence. My time is very limited now.
We'll call her Darcy. It's not her real name. She lives in the Northwest now, used to live in Vancouver. Darcy is a transsexual. There are a lot of misconceptions about transsexualism. It's often linked to homosexualism. In fact, the two are entirely different. Transsexualism is often linked with loose morals, with casual sexual contacts in dark nightclubs. But in fact, many transsexuals have very little interest in sexual activity. Being transsexual is often confused with being a transvestite. True, both have a compulsion to wear clothing of the opposite sex. But for a transvestite, it's desire for titillation. For a transsexual, cross-dressing is an inherent psychological need. In many people's minds, transsexualism is somehow related to prostitution. Yes, some transsexuals are prostitutes. But transsexualism is a medical condition with a surgical cure. It's not to be confused with prostitution. Stedman's Medical Dictionary defines transsexuals as a person with the external genitalia and secondary sexual characteristics of one sex, but whose personal identification and psychosocial morphology is that of the opposite sex. Such individuals often request surgery to relieve the conflict. In other words, Darcy is genetically a male, but psychologically a female. It's a cliche, but it's true. She's trapped, imprisoned, in the wrong body. And like most transsexuals, Darcy realized the mix-up in early childhood. Indeed, she thinks transsexualism may have its origins as early in life as the moment of conception. Darcy's mother always wanted a girl, but she got a boy.
I was the firstborn, and I believe she wanted a girl. You know, how many mothers are in the world right now or in terrace that are pregnant are saying, this is going to be a boy, this is going to be a boy. You know, psychologically, who knows what that baby's thinking for those 9 months? And, you know, if it turns out to be a girl and then once become a boy, I mean, there's operations that go either way, female to male and male to female. So, I mean, I think a lot of it starts from the day of conception. I consider myself a birth defect or a medical problem. They knew at the age of 6 and 7, I knew at the age of 12 that there was something physically wrong. At the age of 13, I was on hormones, female hormones. By the age of 16, I was better built than the women in school.
So even as a child or as a teenager, you were always sort of a little different than your cohorts in school.
I thought of myself as feminine at the age of 9 because I was wearing, people used to call me floodlights, you know, pants that come up to here. I mean, I used to dress strange. I mean, I had long hair, one earring. I mean, you know, I'm 33. I mean, let's go back 20 years, 25 years. Boys then didn't wear an earring, you know, even though it was on, as they call it, the heterosexual side, the right side. But still,
So even as young as 9 years old, you were...
I had an earring at 11, yeah, I was in grade 5.
So you were a little bit sort of different then.
I was floozy, I guess is a good word. I was free-spirited. You have to understand the 60s. But I don't touch drugs. I didn't touch drugs as a child. I wasn't hallucinating. Alcohol I didn't touch till 22, so I mean, and I don't touch alcohol now, so, or very, very rare. So what I did it on free spirit.
When did you start taking hormones?
13.
And when did your parents accept that? Or?
Well, they rushed me to a psychiatrist. Well, my mom did, because she was giving me birth control pills. If you're a girl at 13, birth control pills are used for, obviously, not to get pregnant, but there's also female hormone in there, such as estrogen, which is a main part for a transsexual's development of breasts. By the age of 16, I was fairly breasted.
So your mother sounds like she was quite understanding then.
My mother was very understanding.
And she was giving you birth control pills as a way of getting hormones.
She was giving it to me as a way of making me happier, of being myself. That she realized that she couldn't hold me back anymore. Mothers know their daughters at 13. I freaked out when I heard the word transsexual from a psychiatrist at 13. I thought it was a sex show.
By 1986, Darcy says she had been with the same man for 10 years, was ready to get married, and wanted the complete sex change operation. But the medical clinic in Toronto told Darcy to wait a year for the surgery. They said she hadn't been dressing as a woman long enough.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Gender-conforming surgery does more than change a person's body. It affirms on how they think and how they feel about their own gender and what it means to who they are. Let us return to the archives as Darcy shares her struggles.
They've said the dress code, cross-dressing is 2 years, and they figured I only did it for a year, you know, like full-time. Well, they're only trying to...
set a criteria.
Yeah, well, they're trying to save their necks. I mean, 80% of transsexuals are not truthful, they're not honest, they're hookers, and there's people like me that come across and all of a sudden, here's someone that doesn't hook or prostitute, doesn't have the money as the other ones have. So they figured that I'm just coming out of the blue, you know, and I'm going to end up getting my sex changed and then become a hooker. Well, they're absolutely wrong. So I went back to Vancouver, and I was very frustrated, and I got myself in a bit of trouble, public mischief at a welfare office, because I was desperate. I needed money for the surgery. I know your viewers out there are going to say, oh, why should we pay for that? Well, now look what you're paying for. I mean, you're paying for every little vitamin I need, you know, and I'm not sponging. I mean, I'm trying to salvage my life. But, yeah, people don't believe that we should be paying for sex changes. But anyways, I come back from Toronto. My ex-husband was with me. And through 6-7 months, realized I was in trouble. Realized I was going to go to jail. Realized that our relationship was ending. Realized that everything I worked for, I just went into a deep depression. The Clark Institute in Toronto depressed me to the point where 30% the first year, after being told to wait a year, commit suicide. I was on the verge.
Emotionally distraught, Darcy says she got into trouble with the law and was sentenced to a short prison term. It was in the men's unit at Ocala Prison that her troubles really began.
When they threw you in at Ocala, you had breasts.
Yes, and panties and a bra, makeup.
So obviously they must have known that.
They knew I was a transsexual. The judge in New Westminster said I would not be going to a male prison. That's a bunch of crap. He knew it, and the guard knew it that took me, because it was a male guard took me. I was handcuffed to a man, and the first thing I said, you lay one finger on me, and you're going to lose what I want to lose, basically. You know. I was that mad. I was in heels. I mean, I was in a skirt, bra, and my own hair, and then I get my finger printed, my face, and then I was thrown in with these men, and then the next day I was raped right after lunch. It was degrading, disgusting, and I didn't feel no pain. but I'm sure feeling it now. I don't think any woman should be in a male prison. I think it's very wrong. It's degrading. I mean, how would you like to have your wife put in a male prison?
But how did you end up in the male prison?
Because I have a dominating gender, which is a penis.
So had you had that operation back then?
Well, I wouldn't have had AIDS, obviously. I wouldn't have had to experience the male prison. But you know, in a way, I'm glad I have AIDS. You know, I have to be honest, because I'm learning that now I know what women go through to be raped. And I learned that you have to stand up for yourself. A lot of women in the world have not stood up for themselves because they haven't been pushed to the limit. And I'm not saying they should go out and get raped. I mean, what I'm just saying is that the way I was raped is that I see it every night. I mean, I feel it. I can never get rid of those feelings. You know, I saw one of those individuals actually in Vancouver about a month after I was released from prison, and I forgave him. I don't now. To be honest, I'd like to kill him.
Darcy was the victim of a justice system that couldn't accommodate her. There are no prisons for a person of two sexes, part female and part male. When Darcy got out of Ocala, she helped form an organization, Stop Transsexuals Onto Prison, or STOP, to fight for changes to incarceration practices concerning transsexuals.
Since the 3 years of I've been president of STOP for 2 years, and I've already pushed political gains, such as in Terrace, the judge here was reluctant to put me in prison.
Because he knew?
He knew that there was going to be trouble.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. March 10th is National Women and Girls HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, the day to raise awareness about the impact of HIV on women and show support for women and girls with HIV. In this segment, Darcy shares her frustration regarding public education on HIV and AIDS.
The teachers in the education department show on AIDS. They have no AIDS education in Terrace, and they need it from the horse's mouth from an AIDS individual.
So all your, like a lot of these problems in Terrace, do you think they stem from small town attitudes? Or?
No, it comes from small-minded politicians. It comes from politicians that's never lived in a big city. And Dave Parker has said something, and a month later I had my place vandalized and smashed because of his comments. I had my window smashed, my table. The police were out here numerous times because we were threatened, harassed in bars in Terrace. I stood up to 4 women and grabbed one woman, and the police had said the next day to me that I could have been charged for assault. Well, when does self-defense come into it? Who in society has the right to criticize someone and say it's self-inflicted or sodomy forever? I mean, these sayings and statements came back to my home. I had a log thrown through my window, through my glass table. I was threatened. And I had to stand for myself. The police were right there and did nothing. And I had to go up to the police officer and almost grab him. You know, I grabbed the door of his car. And I said, aren't you going to do anything, you little wimp? And I mean, this constable all of a sudden put gloves on his arms. And I thought, my God, are we into baseball or hospitalization?
Darcy's feelings are so strong towards the Skeena MLA, his political defeat has become her final obsession.
No, I'm not scared I'm going to die. I think what I'm upset about is if I die before an election's called, because I couldn't vote last time. And I want to jump for joy in front of Dave Parker and say, I did it. I think what people should be judging is the government's responsibility. They're the ones that are responsible for my AIDS. They're the ones that are responsible for putting me in a male unit. They're the ones that are responsible for any medications, and there should be some kind of compensation, and I haven't really gotten it. I think the most compensation I'd want to get is a NDP government, because I'm a social credit voter.
Along with the defeat of the social credit government, and Dave Parker in particular, Darcy would also like to see something else before she dies. Something from the people of the Northwest. A little compassion, a little understanding about transsexuals and about those people with AIDS.
But I don't want sympathy and I don't want handouts. You know, what I want from the community is to stop harassing Not just transsexuals or AIDS people or homosexuals, but Indians, you know. And even myself, I got to stop harassing the police. You know, there's so many people in Terrace that have the virus. I'm not aware of anyone other than my husband and another individual, but we're responsible. How many are irresponsible? Most people in Terrace travel to Vancouver, I would say twice a year, because the majority of people do travel in Terrace. And every time you do travel, the chances of a sexual contact is one step closer to an epidemic in Terrace. And Terrace can be an epidemic. And there's no treatment centers here, there's no psychological centers here, there's nothing here. The only thing you have here is people like me to say to the public, listen, grow up. Don't put us down, because you're going to learn from us. And if you don't, one day your sons, daughters, grandmothers, grandfathers, fathers, mothers will come down with AIDS, and what are you going to do? Do the same thing, call them fag, queer, and everything else? You just don't. They're people. They're persons. We're all persons. I know I'm dying, but I'm not scared. I'm just scared of hatred people, bigots, I guess.
Transsexualism is a medical condition that's estimated to affect about 1 in every 30,000 males and 1 in every 100,000 females. When a person says he or she is of the opposite sex, it's not a minor delusion. They really feel that way. Depression is common among transsexuals. It comes from attempting to live as one of the opposite sex. It's not easy being trapped in the wrong body. And it's not easy being a woman who's been in a male prison.
And the nightmares, not as many now, but it's hard to discuss. I mean, you have to be there. You know, Stephen, maybe 1 out of 7 night, every 7th night, is wondering what I'm screaming about. You know, I don't even know I'm screaming in my sleep.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Road Safety BC is a branch of the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General. It's a lead government agency responsible for road safety in British Columbia. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to the archives to bring you this story from 1989.
Here we have something that the consumer can save 40 to 50% on. Downtime. When you bring your car into me, I can have your car in and out of my shop probably in an hour and a half. Most people want their car right away. That's the product that we have with a 50,000-mile warranty.
The product is New Joint. It's a system of injecting heated polymer under pressure into virtually any mechanical joint that'll take a grease nipple. It promises new life and serviceability for all friction joints and kingpins of any size in anything. It's patented, it's been around the States for 7 years, and in Canada, it's Gary Johnson's baby. He has the national franchise and had every intention of making his million, selling local dealerships and the product itself. For 1.5 years, the plan seemed to be working principally with heavy industries equipment. Johnson said New Joint's name was building, and so was dealer interest.
We have roughly about 13 distributors throughout British Columbia. Now, all of our distributors has been affected by this letter very drastically. The phone calls has stopped ringing. My business itself, I can just about confirm that I lost over $100,000 last week.
In lost distributorships?
Yes, for franchising. I had people that was willing to sign up, and it's gone, totally gone.
The letter is from Superintendent of Motor Vehicles P.K. Jackman to all vehicle inspection stations. It also went to highways maintenance operations and maintenance foremen at mining and other industrial shops. The letter refers to all plastic or polymer injection systems, saying proof of repair claims has not been submitted, and adds use of such products will make highway use vehicles fail inspection.
That was sent throughout British Columbia.
The letter does not name New Joint, but the effect, according to Johnson, was to immediately kill New Joint's potential on private cars. Potential dealers backed out. Despite good product performance in logging trucks, loaders, and Laternos over the past year, some existing customers in heavy industry found the ban on highway vehicle use intimidating, even if they were planning applications for off-highway, like box pins on a 120-ton truck and work on a grader for mine use.
The injection was going to be probably about a $5,000 bill for the grader and the box pins, okay? They General Foreman had received this letter, and he come out and he says, no, he says, we won't have this on the claim. He says, because if the government has rejected it, he says, we don't want nothing to do with it.
It can be argued that Superintendent Jackman, responsible for ensuring our vehicle safety on BC highways, has every right to reject unproven procedures for maintenance of critical steering components, that he should be cautious. Even Gary Johnson agrees with that, if that is what's happening.
If he can help us out in any way, if he's got any suggestions that he can make to us, we will abide by what he's saying. But when he's condemned our product, like he has hurt our distributors. He has hurt me for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Johnson says he and New Joint International President Peter Pedros of Golden, Colorado have tried everything they can think of to show Mr. Jackman the integrity of their product. Invoices and repeat orders from U.S. customers like state police, airlines, and school districts, tests from the Manitoba Research Council done to SAE standards, testimonial letters from Prince George area logging contractors. Nothing worked. Jackman wouldn't accept their submissions as proof, but he apparently would accept their competition's condemnation of New Joint.
He would accept our product if the ball joint manufacturers accepted it. Now that's like Ford telling, hey, Chrysler's a good product. I mean, it's the same thing. We are in definite competition with the ball joint manufacturers. There's no doubt about it. So we are in the repairing end of it, they are in the replacing end of it. So we can take it from there.
New Joint in BC has heavy equipment clients who claim the process cost them less money and downtime and has performed well for more than a year in heavy use. New Joint US claims 270,000 injections in 1986 with just 17 warranty claims. 360,000 in 87, many of these in family cars with just 11 claims. The Provincial Motor Vehicle Branch claims they've seen no proof, but admit there are no set standards for testing. Industry officials say there is no agency setting standards here, and usually no intervention unless there's a complaint. That complaint could come from a dissatisfied customer or from a competitor. Johnson says he keeps asking what he has to do to prove New Joint, but can't get an answer. His Canadian franchise rights give him the opportunity to manufacture the kits used in applying New Joint and to eventually manufacture the polymer product itself. But in the face of provincial obstructions, he says he may have to do that somewhere other than Prince George, BC.
Yes, I'm heading out of here. I'm going to Ontario, Ontario has got no problem with our product. The wife and I'm just fed up with BC, the way it's been treating me. I've been here in business since 1972, and I just can't believe what's happened. I really can't.
In recent days, Mr. Jackman and Mr. Pedros agreed to direct talks toward resolution of the conflict. Since then, Mr. Pedros discovered Mr. Jackman's anti-injection letter in an automotive industry publication. Mr. Jackman says he doesn't know how or why the letter went to the magazine, but that he and his people are working toward a resolution everyone can live with, hopefully soon. The lawyers are now in the picture, monitoring all correspondence. It is not a simple thing, this being an entrepreneur, but it's not always quite this complicated.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection, the greatest distance in the existence of man. It's not from here to there, but the connection from its mind to its heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.